program, and within the first 24 hours, we had over 1 million people engaged in the program. And it really showed that when you do it the right way, these new channels can be incredibly powerful and engaging.
Welcome to another episode of Business Beyond Borders. Today, I'm really excited to have with us Peter Dingle, who is currently based in Hong Kong and an expert in using technology to help venture companies to solve problems across multiple industries, and has also recently got into the venture capital space. Welcome, Peter. Welcome to today's episode.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. It's fantastic to be here. Really great to be part of this.
Yeah, and you know, as I mentioned in the introduction, you have vast experiences expanding across venture capital and most of your time spent across innovation as well as brand management across different geographies. Maybe could you start by giving us kind of a quick introduction of your experiences and your background, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate the question. Look, I've had a very a very enjoyable sort of multi-industry career. I've been in Hong Kong now for nearly 20 years, originally from a very small town in New Zealand. And after doing a little bit of travel overseas before university, was able to join some pretty amazing companies, big, large corporates that are very global in their nature. Very, very visionary in the way they develop technology, and very capable of taking risks to invest in the future. So starting with Intel Semiconductor, an amazing company that you know almost everybody probably knows the brand. You're making microprocessors that then sort of help to drive and evolve the entire, pretty much every industry that we work in or touch today has been evolved and driven by semiconductors, and by that whole concept of Moore's law of faster, cheaper processing power, whether it's in a supercomputer in a university for weather forecasting, or whether it's in a phone in your pocket. We're using it now for ChatGPT or an AI and things like that today. So that exposure across multiple industries sort of really taught me that technology is something that can really solve many human problems, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in finance, whether it's in communications, whether it's in transportation. And so that kind of got me really excited about building startup companies. So I was able to spend a couple of years building accelerator programs in Hong Kong and in Singapore, with startup founders from 40 different countries, where we would fly them from all over the world to live with us in either Hong Kong or Singapore for 3 months. They'd work with the sponsoring corporate company that was running these programs. And then their objective was to get funding or to get a customer so they can get revenue. And so that was just an amazing reinvention of myself, of the way I thought about technology, taking all of the rigor and the planning and the strategic thinking of Intel, and of helping sort of encourage startups to not make mistakes, to think strategically about where they place their resources, to make sure that they don't blindly jump off a cliff and try and build something before they hit the ground, because it's difficult to really build a startup. And then more recently, I was able to take that corporate accelerator experience into HSBC, where I was part of the retail innovation team, helping to find capabilities that the large bank was needing to integrate to build more enjoyable consumer journeys, or reduce the steps of being a banking customer. and then more recently, we've been able to launch a institutional product where a large institution can actually take or participate in early stage companies. So we're very excited to sort of complete that journey from building technology to building companies to now investing in companies.
Very nice. And with all of these experiences, you would be at the front row in terms of being exposed to innovations. And what are some of I know earlier you had touched on a little bit on some of the challenges that startup face, but maybe let's dive a little bit deeper into what are some of the challenges that they face, and especially since you have been observing this across different regions. What are some of the challenges that they face as they enter into new international markets, and how best do you advise them to overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. So the first is really trying to understand a problem and then build a solution that has a product market fit. And sort of that's common in any industry. In different industries, they've got different challenges. Some industries are heavily regulated, some are much more free flowing. So that's your first big challenge is trying to find product market fit. Then the second big challenge is once you've got product market fit is building a team. Hiring people that are going to really come on along with you as a founder or as a team to really scale out and be able to produce your product or service at a quality and at a quantity that enables you to generate revenue, and doing that all with the difficulty of a burn rate, paying people salaries before they can get income, or having investors wanting to know where the money's being spent and what it's being spent on. None of these things are easy, and that's before you start to think about the geographical boundaries or the cultural boundaries or the demographic boundaries. So startups that have in many cases focused on large single markets end up with a lot more of a shot at becoming successful, because when you're looking at multiple fragmented markets that have not only geographical differences, but they might have language barriers or cultural differences. This adds an additional layer of complexity on top of what is already a very difficult job. And so these are all lessons that many startups have learned in the past. There's millions of books written about how to optimize or solve each of these problems along the way. So being able to work with founders to understand where they are, to help them understand how to prioritize, understand which problems need to be solved prior to building fancy websites or building branding and marketing or trying to build profile. The order in which you want to focus your attention and resources is really, really important. So it's not easy to do, but as a lot of founders find, through the process of failing and through the process of rebuilding, it's an incredibly rewarding journey once you've done it, and you become part of a very special group of people that can be incredibly supportive of each other as well.
And you also mentioned earlier that there are a lot of books that founders could go to. What's one or two that is top of mind for you, or your go-to book that you would recommend founders to take a look at?
Well, I mean, there's obviously lots of Christmas lists of like the top 100 books you can read. From a very, very first instance standpoint, there's probably two that stand out. And these are a little cliche, but people probably know these ones already, but The Lean Startup is a really key one. And then 0 to 1 is, and maybe you can add these into the links below.
Yeah, we will.
But I guess there's a book that is probably a little less well known and a little bit, probably one of my more personal favorites. And it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it's by Dale Carnegie, and it's it's really a very universal book about how to engage with and talk to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly when you're dealing with people from different backgrounds, from different ages, from different demographics, different
Mm.
experiences, having an empathetic approach to engaging in people is incredibly important and can get you a very long way. From building a relationship with an investor to hiring a team member that perhaps you haven't necessarily built that trust or rapport with yet, to getting up on stage and telling your story or promoting your product. I really do think that these two these skills are critical skills that founders probably don't appreciate as much nowadays as they did 20 years ago. And
Yeah.
now a lot of the focus has been on technology or on how technologies can solve human problems.
Mm.
So yeah, that would be the one that I think stands out for me.
Yeah, this is quite interesting because personally, I've also learned quite the way that as a founder, it's very important to always be marketing and selling your company, whether it is to new partners, new stakeholders, or to prospective employees. You're always out there selling in different ways. So I quite like the last book that you mentioned as well. Yeah, and you know, if we rewind back to the earlier part of your career where you had spent more time in marketing, more notably managing budgets across 8 different countries, successfully transitioning Intel from really much traditional media reliant business to one that is D2C digital with a social brand. Could you share with us your experience back then? How was it like, and how did you conceptualize the transition?
Yeah, it's a fascinating time, and I was part of an amazing team based in Hong Kong and Singapore,
Mm,
and we were really charged with helping build the brand of Intel. And Intel was really a quite an interesting brand because it's a very technical product that very few people care to try to understand. Most
mm,
people don't really want to understand what a computer processor does. And so, as part of the marketing team, our job was to really try and cross that chasm, to really try and make the consumer or the mum or the dad that walks into a retail store make sure that when they buy a computer that they're asking for Intel inside.
mm,
And so, when we think back about 15 years, where social media was starting to become the 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 preferred method of connection with
mm.
consumers, not only in Western markets, but certainly here in Asia as well. I actually started the conversation at Intel where we needed to sort of argue that these millions of dollars that we're spending on TV ads in China or in India or in Australia, that we could get a lot more value out of those dollars if we just take a small slice of those
Mm-hmm.
and dedicate a small slice of those to building engagement through these social media channels,
Yep.
because it's an always on medium. It's a two-way medium. It enables you to build content um, that is both local and also international. So you
Yep.
might have 20% of your content might be global, and then 80% might be across a variety of different campaigns
Mm-hmm.
created by local teams for, maybe local holidays or local events or local guerrilla marketing type tech activities. Um, and so it added another channel
Mm-hmm.
to what was, TV, radio, cinema type advertising channels. It added your Facebook channels. It added which is Meta now. It added your Twitter channels for influencer engagement. And nowadays that has fragmented even further to new channels like TikTok or,
Mm.
and so it's always important to understand that the business has got challenges to solve, and in that case, it was trying to get value for the marketing dollar and proving that the marketing dollars were being spent in the right way.
Yep.
And so by being able to measure and quantify engagement, through two-way communication like social media, it was quite easy to justify taking a small amount of TV budget, which was really only measured through, sort of broadcast methods of reach and frequency.
Yep.
Into a totally new way, and that it also enables you to extend it to direct purchase, where consumers can fall in love with a product, and then they can click through and purchase the product. And that explosion of e-commerce and online shopping has really taken over Asia in the last 5 to 10 years.
And the transition must not have been easy to immediately get organic following into the social brand. What was kind of like the pivotal moment that you start seeing the uptake, or was it smooth sailing right from the start?
I think it takes, like at Intel, we had a very, very, very capable team of who would think about long-term investment and market plans that were, we're all about follow through and growth. And so taking that type of capability and applying it to a new channel was really a very strong foundation.
Okay.
And so a lot of companies that want to do those types of transitions today, you can learn a lot from the old transitions, not just because we're using new technologies, Web3, type stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that you throw out the old book of long-term planning and engagement. But I think to your question, one of the most pivotal moments, we did an amazing campaign out of Asia, which was called the Museum of Me campaign, where we created and launched a Facebook program where it was a single click engagement. So there was no complicated forms to fill in. There was no put in your details. It was a single click, and it would ingest a lot of your Facebook content, your friends, your photos, your videos, your content, and it would produce a 2-minute video of your content in a museum.
Oh,
and
nice.
for the team that I worked with to build this, we used an amazing agency in Japan to do it. I had to work through all the legal implications of collecting personal information, and then how long we'd hold it for, and what would be accountable for if something went wrong. And we managed to get that working, and we launched that program, and within the first 24 hours we had over 1 million people engaged in the program.
Okay.
And so that was really a pivotal moment where we thought, well, when you get this right, when you do it in the right way for consumers, you protect privacy, all of those videos weren't shareable freely online. There was a personal video for you. You're able to share a few snapshots of your experience, but it wasn't like people could have access to your personal information.
Yeah.
So we did it the right way, and it really showed that when you do it the right way, these new channels can be incredibly powerful and engaging.
Wow, I love it.
It won 6 awards at international advertising shows and things like like a Gold Lion at Cannes, and so it was very well recognized, and it was certainly something that the team in general was very proud of it, and I was very proud to be part of that team.
Nice. And throughout your career, you've also started to drive a lot of you held a lot of different roles that induced significant cultural changes and processes, and integration of local cultures for international businesses. What were some of the strategies that you have found most effective as you reflect on your journey so far?
Yeah, I think so. I guess from a cultural change perspective, whether it's been with HSBC in the innovation role, or before HSBC with brands like AIA here in Hong Kong, there's a thread that connects across these large organizations and these programs, and that is that staff are always looking to to be engaged in something that's interesting and that is I guess it's going to excite them and enable them to feel like they're part of something bigger.
Right.
Nobody wants to come to a corporate role or to a business and feel like they're just doing the same thing every day and what they do doesn't matter. And so with whether it's the Data Quest program that I built at HSBC, which was across 60,000 employees across 90 markets in Asia, which was anyone from any part of the organization can bring an idea that used HSBC data to solve a business or a customer problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was a world first for the bank, which traditionally operates in its single markets or across its single business lines. Having Indonesian graduates suggest data ideas to the CEO's office and have that CEO office recognize those and promote those all the way to the final 10 was incredibly enabling and empowering for these young staff members, because that it doesn't matter where they are in the organization. They can feel part of something bigger, and they feel that they can have their voice heard, and they can feel they can have their creativity acknowledged.
Yeah.
And that was one of, I guess, a really powerful lesson. Large organizations do have an enormous amount of talent, and they just need ways to unlock that talent and to enable those people who have got some sort of superpower to break through all the bureaucratic or the geographical boundaries and to get their ideas heard. And likewise, in programs that we did for AIA, the innovation program that we launched, the AIA Accelerator in Hong Kong, that sort of showed that AIA, 100-year-old insurance business that's operating across multiple markets in Asia, that it did care about innovation, and it did want to invest in technologies that could help not only the actuarial models of predicting insurance, but it did want to look at solutions in the wearable technology space or the quantified self space, and that those technologies would not only help with their actuarial models to predict better outcomes for customers, but it would also help customers live happier, healthier lives. And then there's that intersection of health and health and wealth that's really important in Asia, and that's been a big theme that's really carried on through many insurance companies over the last 5 to 10 years.
And also especially when you start opening up the local offices to let them see what the problems the global businesses might be facing, then that gives them the opportunity to not just feel like they're part of something bigger, but also gives the international or global businesses to also understand what are some of the local problems that they might be facing, and then you can then iterate and target and tailor the offerings to the local market more effectively. So kind of a win-win situation in both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if we tie it back to, startups that you have been working with over or more, and the ventures that you've been creating that are more at the earlier stages, for those that are looking to expand internationally or scale internationally, what are some of the key factors that you think they should consider and think about?
So expanding internationally comes from success locally. So having a very simple and easy explanation for what problem you solve and how you solve it is really key.
Okay.
You'd be surprised at how many early stage companies I meet that just cannot articulate what they do. They're so I guess focused on building their product, and they're so in the weeds when it comes to what they do and how they do it, that they lose the ability to communicate with normal human beings. And so that's really important. Being able to sort of zoom out and say, we've had success solving this problem locally. This is kind of what the problem is that we solve. we have identified that this problem exists in multiple other markets, and we've got a way of proving or building a proof of concept or engaging with someone in quite a low risk way, so that we can show you that the same success that we've had in our first market will work in your market or will work in other markets, and so that's really key is that process of building trust and rapport through your existing success, but then also reducing the risk that that your potential client is going to see in the product, because they're going to see, well, you might not speak my language, or you might not know anything about my customers, or your market is so different to my market. How could it possibly work? And in the B2B space, this is the business to business sort of solution space. This is particularly important because those sales cycles are a little bit longer. And so it takes quite a long time to engage with the right person and fit into the timing of being able to finance those proof of concepts or those new engagements. In B2C or direct to consumer type products, it's really just a matter of exposure and awareness and getting people to test it and trial it.
Got it. And on this topic of internationalization and also global mobility, as I look through your career journey, you have been to different parts of the world. You started out your career in Australia and New Zealand, and then you moved to the United States, and then now you are here in Asia, in Hong Kong, and also spending a bit of time in Singapore. What was your decision as you decided to move from country to country? Was it difficult to pack up and move to a new country?
It's incredibly hard to leave your family behind, the things that you're comfortable with, the things that you know, but it's also incredibly exciting to travel, to experience new cultures, to learn learn about the way different countries operate and think. So moving from New Zealand to Australia was a jump, but when you're young and you're excited about adventure, and New Zealand and Australia are very close in terms of cultural alignment. We're brothers and sisters, to be quite honest. Moving from Australia to Hong Kong, a much bigger gap. But Hong Kong welcomes expats, welcomes foreigners. It's an amazing city. It has certainly its rich and deep history, but it's also quite familiar as well, in the sense that it's quite okay to speak English pretty much everywhere, whereas a lot of other Asian markets you can't get away with speaking English everywhere. So it's the thing that I think keeps me excited about meeting new cultures, meeting new people is I know I can always fly home. I can always go back to New Zealand, even for a weekend, and stay connected. But there's always new things to learn. There's always new things to appreciate. I'm a foodie, so there's always delicious food to eat and try. And really, it's much more about people than it is about business. The people are really what make it all worthwhile. Where you get to understand why, what these problems are that exist, and how technologies from other parts of the world can solve them. And then what that enables in terms of the flourishing and the growth of people in those markets, the development of, if I look back over 20 years here in Asia, these amazing developments in Shenzhen, where it's gone from a rice paddy field to an amazing metropolis, to what's happened in Singapore, to what's happened in even Vietnam or Malaysia. These cities are completely unrecognizable to what they were like 20 years ago. people are healthier, more people are coming out of poverty. There's the world is actually a pretty amazing place when you take a step back and you look at how things have changed because of technology, and because of globalization.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking about people, as you move from country to country, what advice do you have for building your network again from a new country, and how do you get plugged into the community and make friends?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty amazing world we live in today. Every country, no matter where I go, has communities for almost everything. Whether it's the fintech communities today, it's very easy to get plugged into the heads of the fintech associations,
Yep.
From professional networks and connections. Almost every university has welcomes you with open arms.
Mm-hmm.
You can visit the universities, you can meet the professors, you can speak with classes of MBA students or upcoming postgraduates. But also there's a whole world of leisure and I guess fun activities. Like when you're coming to Hong Kong, there's a diverse group of people who just love to go hiking all the time. And when you go to places like Australia or New Zealand, it's outdoor activities, it's beaches, it's barbecues. And so really I think the trick is you form one connection.
Yep.
And then through that one connection, through that coffee or that glass of wine or that coffee that meeting that you have with them, you ask for an introduction to another, and then you build and nurture those networks and keep
Nice.
those connections as you grow. And LinkedIn is a fantastic way to see who you've got friends in common with. The world. It's very easy to build relationships and networks these days. So the challenge is nurturing those relationships over the years.
Okay. Yeah. And now that you have been spending quite a bit of time in Asia, and more particularly you have been living and working across 19 different countries here, what are some of the key learnings that you have had managing businesses in this region?
I think the key learnings would be probably more people focused rather than business focused. That you can't look at a business through just the numbers. You have to look at the business through the eyes of the people that manage it and run it.
Yeah.
And as you do sort of look into all of the important factors of the market, the culture, the assumptions that you make, where you come from, you get a much richer and deeper understanding of why businesses operate the way they are.
Yeah.
Different markets move at different speeds. Different supply chains have different complexities. Different cultures approach different types of products and services in different ways. And then different regulations in each market also restrict or in some ways encourage different types of practices. And so building really solid relationships with the people that understand those businesses is absolutely critical. And then keeping communication lines open, not just for formal communications, but for more casual and less sophisticated communications is also really, really important, right? People want to know that they can reach out and ask a question at any time, and it's important to ensure that the formalities of business are managed, the compliance of a business is correctly looked after, but at the same time that the connections with the people are there, because we can't all be in all places at all times. We have to really build solid friends and family across our business networks.
Correct. And for that, how do you think that companies who are looking to expand here into this region, I know we briefly talked about that earlier, but for people who are looking to expand into Asia, what are some of the top considerations that they might want to have before making that decision or move?
Actually, I speak with a lot of European businesses and a lot of Oceanic or Australasian businesses that are sometimes hesitant to expanding into Asia. A lot of the news that they hear or the anecdotal evidence that they see isn't necessarily encouraging.
Right.
And then when they come here, or when they visit, whether it's visiting Singapore or whether it's visiting Hong Kong, or even some of our other bigger markets like China or India, or even Japan, they get a completely different perspective from what they expect or what they hear in their local media. So the first is they should have a more realistic understanding of what the markets are and how they operate, and don't necessarily rely on mainstream media for all the news.
Yeah.
The second thing is it's really important to understand how their product or service fits into the local landscape. So some markets are very mature in terms of the competitors or the products that are being offered in the market. And then if you're coming from Europe or you're coming from another market, you might not understand that. So you might think that expansion into a new market is going to be easy because you might be the only player in your business in your geography that does it. So understand the competitive landscape is really the second thing. And then the third thing is money solves all problems. So finding a partner that has an equal and an acceptable value trade with you, where you can start small and build a relationship that is not only profitable for you and your partner, but also encouraging a growth strategy. That really helps because it means that you could potentially invest in having people here. It means you could invest in incorporating the business or a subsidiary in the market. Once you've got that subsidiary or that business, it means you can hire a local person, and that starts to build a lot more momentum around the trust that a customer might have with you and your business. And hiring in Singapore or Hong Kong or in these markets is an exciting opportunity for growth. And once you've incorporated and set up, you have access to an enormous amount of resources that are being set up by not only the local investors but also the government, and by certain programs that are encouraging overseas companies to move to these markets. And so a lot of these businesses from overseas don't have an understanding of any of that sort of stuff. They don't realize how much is being invested to encourage companies to move here and set up, and they don't understand what all those business opportunities are.
Yeah. I love that. And now I know we are running out of time, so I have two quick wrap-up questions as we look to wrap up today's episode. First is, what advice would you have for people who are currently considering to decide whether they want to make the move out of their home country?
Do it. Your home country. The best advice, I think, is that have yourself a little bit of a safety net, so that when you do go traveling, you're not doing it in a completely unprotected, unmanaged way. So have your separate passport or your copies of your bits and pieces, so that when you do go traveling, if you're young and inexperienced, when something goes wrong, that
Mm-hmm.
you've kind of ticked that contingency box. But just always remember that wherever you go, it's home is only ever a flight away.
Right.
It's very easy to go home, and there's a big wide world out there, and you don't know how it will affect, it will influence or change your perspective on the world.
Yeah.
You'll realize that there's this amazing opportunity of culture and of music and of leisure and of business that exists out there, and it's out there for everyone. It's out there for everyone to play with and to explore. So I would certainly encourage doing it. It changed my perspective on the universe. It was an amazing opportunity for me to leave a small part of New Zealand and end up in Hong Kong, and so I would definitely recommend it to everybody.
Okay. And my last question would be, as you have accumulated so much experiences using technology to help solve problems, what's one piece of technology that excites you the most right now? And as we just come out of the FinTech Festival a couple of weeks back, what's something that maybe you saw that really excites you going forward?
Oh, I mean, this is an easy one. If you think about the growth and the accessibility now of large language models and generative AI,
Yeah.
I still meet people on a regular basis that aren't playing with it. They haven't tested it. They haven't started to use it for their own benefit. Everyone out there in your audience, even in their families, should start to play with and learn how these various different large language models work.
Yeah.
There's dozens of them now, so you don't have to just stick to one of the famous ones that get talked about. They do all sorts of different things, from shopping lists to organizing your workout routines, to helping write letters for jobs, to planning travel. There's an enormous amount of fun you can have with them. I wouldn't say use them for exams or necessarily work. They're still not quite good enough to replace your own intelligence as a human being. But the world of generative AI is the future. It will help you learn to code. It will help you build your first app. It will help you simplify the complexities of the modern world, which we all face with in somewhat of an overwhelming way these days. So that really would be the number one thing that I would say for people to encourage and get really good at.
Very nice. With that, I think we wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us today. I really enjoyed, your people-centered way of managing businesses, whether it comes to locally managing a business or through international expansions. And love seeing and rooting for you to see what else you would build, and also what kind of investments you will make in the near future. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for listening to Business Beyond Borders. If you have any feedback or thoughts, do write into us at support@bluent.com. Click to follow to tune into the next episode. See you again soon.